stars come to play. He's the biggest of them all. Step back, 4-3. Phoenix forced a turnover at halfway. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Clock at 10. Adams the off balance. Oh, oh my goodness. 2 on the clock.
Beyond the Buzzer is back. I am today's host, Ryan Tucker. We are on the Basketball Fix podcast network. As always, I'm joined by NBL expert Josh Higgins and new Perth Wildcats bandwagon supporter, Jeremy Dark. Boys, welcome to today's show.
All right,
Anyone going to say hi?
It's all you. It's always you. It's always you, Josh.
Oh, well, after the last time, I didn't think I could actually get a word in. You two blokes had to keep on talking over each other to restart the recording, so I thought I'll let you guys have your moment. But yes, mate, looking forward to obviously breaking down the last NBL week. Obviously, there hasn't been a lot going on. The fever break has pretty much stalled all momentum of the NBL so far, but we've got an impressive week coming up with obviously week 1 of the semi-finals and some interesting matchups and some juicy little things to be talking about. But my fellow Perth Wildcat man, Jeremy Dark, how are we, mate?
I am very well, Ryan. That's on our other podcast. I'm never going to be a Perth Wildcats fan with this guy sitting above us in our little tripod here. Not a chance. Always going to be the play devil's advocate against the Beyond the Buzzer. That's basically a Wildcats podcast. Got to be careful.
But you have said it, and it is out there on the internet, so you're not escaping that one.
All right, fair enough.
Boys, we've been working hard the last few days, and so exciting to release this feature on our website, the NBL 26 Free Agency Tracker. Head over to thebasketballfix.com. It's live right now. Josh, this is kind of a bit of a brainchild of you. Let us know what it is, and I can show a little bit while you're talking.
Yeah, well, it's a brainchild of me, but it's all the hard work of yourself, mate. You've absolutely dominated what we wanted to achieve. We obviously wanted to make a platform for all of our amazing NBL fans to pretty much come on and see what your teams are essentially targeting this NBL free agency period. Now, there is plenty of rumours on there, as always. Now, if you yourself have some rumours that you've heard or some credible sources or anything like that, get involved and make sure you reach out to us. We'll chuck them on there as well, do a bit of research. But everything going on for NBL 26 free agency period is right here at the Basketball Fix, www.thebasketballfix.com. Check out the free agency section. It is going to be an absolute blast.
So cool. And I love that I could record my phone screen and put it onto this podcast. I'm a tech fucking whiz, boys.
You are. You're a god.
Not only that is happening, but Josh, we've started a bit of a campaign over on the Basketball Fix podcast Instagram. Let us know about that.
Yeah, so obviously we've just recently hit 1,000 followers, and you wouldn't know that. We're really up to 1,300 already, so we might be thinking of a sponsor for 2,000 followers very shortly, boys. But we've teamed up with the Sporting Globe over here in Australia, Australia-wide as well. Now, simply all you've got to do is go and check out our Instagram at the Basketball Fix podcast, and all you've got to do is like the post, but be following both the Basketball Fix account and the Sporting Globe account, which are both linked in the photo and in the description. And make sure you comment and tag 2 friends in the comment section as well. So entries are wrapping up very, very quickly. Make sure you go and check it out because there is 2 $100 gift vouchers for the Sporting Globe Australia for you and a friend, obviously, to take away as well. So incredible prize, and obviously a major thank you to the Sporting Globe, who is our first official sponsor here at the Basketball Fix podcast, and we're looking forward to doing some more business with them in the future as well.
Awesome. Now, boys, today's show, it's a bit of a kind of versus show. Tatum versus King, Goulding versus Cotton, and then we round it all up with some free agency. Now, let's get straight into this Tatum versus King. Now, when we spoke about what we're going to discuss on today's show, and obviously the semi-finals coming up towards the end of the week, we have these 2 coaches going head-to-head. Justin Tatum won Coach of the Year. Many people thought, it was a clear favourite. It was locked in. I'm an Illawarra Hawks supporter. I wasn't sure that he was a lock because we have Josh King in Southeast Melbourne, who has had a fantastic season. And Jez, to you first, mate, you said that King is a little bit like Tatum was last year. And Tatum maybe was deserved of the award this year more because of what he did last year. What are your feelings and thoughts around that?
Yeah, well, I think the NBL, when it comes to this award, first of all, they set the precedent last year because I think there was a lot of people that thought Tatum deserved it last year. He turned Illawarra from a team that was 2-7 to obviously making the semi-finals and being so close to even playing in that championship series. And Josh King's done the same thing. So I think there was no way they could do Tatum like that this year and give it to Josh King. Josh King took over when Southeast Melbourne was 0-5, obviously with that interim period where they did actually pick up a few games, but his influence was there from the start, you would think. So it turned a team that was 0-5 into a team that is now going and playing in a semi-final to play in the championship series. So two very, very similar stories to import coaches taking over a team and bringing in this really high octane, I love that expression, high octane offense, where it's all about points. Like obviously Tatum this year has turned things around, and Illawarra are a good defensive team, and Southeast Melbourne were a good defensive team. When they were building towards going on their run in the season, they were a very, very strong lockdown team, especially at home. So two sort of really, really similar coaching styles. Definitely this, it is, for me, it feels like it's definitely offense first for both of these teams. They really, really push hard. They're all about scoring points. They do it in a little bit of a different way, obviously with the different players that they do have, but I think two really, really great additions to the coaching, team of the NBL, because I think both of these guys bring something really, really special. They've turned some teams around. They have great stories, and it's almost like they're becoming, depending on how long they stay, that they're becoming like the next generation of NBL coaches. So what are you laughing at down in the corner there, Ryan?
You say before every show, I'm not going to ramble today.
I'm having a ramble. I'm allowed to ramble. We're allowed to have a bit of a ramble.
You're allowed to. Just if
I'm
you
allowed
don't
to. That's what this platform is. No, I want to. I want to ramble.
Josh,
now we're rambling about rambling.
Josh, if Tatum can't win his first final series, could this kind of be a bit of does it fall flat, him getting coach of the year and the team winning the minor premiership, but then not progressing to a grand final series?
Oh, anyone who says that this is a failure is an absolute spud. Like, I think the way you've got to look at it is the fact that he's essentially dragged this team from pretender, worst team in the competition to a legit contender in the NBL. And I want to reference one thing here. And this was said by the great Giannis Antetokounmpo the year after, I believe, they were bowed out in the playoffs after winning the NBL championship. And he was asked, was this season a failure? And these were some of the comments. Every year you work towards something, towards a goal, which is whether it's to get a promotion, be able to take care of your family, to be able to provide a house for them, or take care of your parents, you work towards a goal. It's not a failure, it's steps to success. He went on to also say Michael Jordan played 15 years in the NBA and he won 16 champions. Were the other 9 seasons a failure? Now, I think that's the perfect quote to reference what the talk has been. There has been whispers of this. If he loses this championship or doesn't make the grand final series or anything like that, is this season nothing but a failure? No. What he's done to essentially get this franchise back in order is 100% a major success no matter what happens in the playoffs. Now, do I believe that they're the championship favourites? 100%. Do I believe they're going to get past Illawarra? I'm at about 65-35% right now that they will succeed from this matchup. I'm very interested in this. I think the addition, most likely, of Derek Walton Jr. back into this game for Southeast Phoenix really evens up that guard combination compared to, obviously, Illawarra. You've got Tyler Harvey and Trey Kell taking on Nathan Sobey and Derek Walton Jr. Now, that's a really exciting matchup. Both of them are very similar as well. You've got Trey Kell, who's more of a playmaker, who can score at his times and obviously does everything else. You've got Derek Walton Jr., who's their playmaker. And then Sobey and Harvey are those really, really volume scorers. But now that those matchups are quite even now, it's going to come down to the big men inside. And that's the matchup of Sam Froling and Mason Peatling. You'll probably throw in there as well, taking on Matt Hurt and Geordie Hunter. So I'm super excited about this. But to answer your question right there about, is this a failure? not a chance in hell will this be a failure if they don't make the NBL championship or even win the NBL championship either.
I didn't call it a failure. I was wondering if it was falls flat because, these two coaches, and Jez, I want to throw to you on this one. The coaching style of these two import coaches is quite different to what you've seen from the Australian kind of system and the coaches that are produced in the Australian system. Do you think this is maybe a way forward for the NBL and other teams that are reaching for that success to kind of mirror what the Hawks and the Phoenix have done here?
Yeah, I think so. Like, it's really, really aggressive style of coaching. They're working really, really hard on the offense, and I think that's what we've seen in the NBA. And I think mirroring, obviously, what's happening in the NBA to what's happening in the NBL, I think is a really, really good option when it comes to trying to use the NBL as a feeder league for the NBA, which is what we know the NBL is all about, and that's how we're getting the big names here, like Montrez. You want and even the next stars, because you want them playing in an environment where they're going to then be able to transition to the NBA. So having more of these like import coaches coming here and putting forward that game and developing the young players to be able to play that style of basketball, I think is only a positive.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, like, we've also got to remember these guys have got super talented teams. Like, Matt Hurt is arguably a top 3 talent in the NBL this year that obviously Josh King has adapted to and evolved with. And I think the thing, like, to play devil's advocate with Josh King, I don't really think Mike Kelly had enough chance with this team. 5 games isn't enough when 75 to 85% of your roster has basically been flipped on its head. So I think the talk around Josh King as a coach, he's 100% a great coach. But we saw what Sam McKinnon did with this team in those 2 games as well before Josh was coming. This team was building in the right direction. That's a massive thing for the Josh King debate, is the fact that I think this team just hit its strides at the middle part of the season where it was basically one of the top teams. And the last 5 games, they pretty much died away and obviously went from that sort of standout contender to a potential team that may miss out in the playoffs. So playing devil's advocate there, they've both got incredible teams. Justin Tatum has got the deepest roster in the NBL this season, and you probably wouldn't have said that. I know he's still coaching well, but Darius Day is coming off the bench, H.J. Lee, Will Hickey, these guys are genuine superstars in the NBL. So, yeah, it's a tough one, but they've both done an incredible job, and they both deserve to be where they are right now.
All right, boys, let me hear your pick for this matchup, this series. Is it a sweep? Is it a 2-1? Or what do we see, Josh?
Yeah, it's a tough one for me, mate. I think it'll be 2-1 to the Illawarra Hawks. I think Illawarra win the first game at home. I think the Phoenix win their game at home, and then Illawarra will close it out at home as well in front of their home fans. So, like I said, I still think the big play for this is not necessarily Tyler Harvey, Trey Kell, or Sam Froling. It's going to be how South East Melbourne Phoenix use Matt Hurt, and on the other side of that, how Illawarra defend Matt Hurt as well. So that's my little key to the matchup. But 2-1 to the Hawks for this one for me, mate.
I'm going to be a little bit more biased and say 2-0 to Illawarra. I think I explained myself a little bit last week on the show. I think even with Derek Walton Jr. coming, it can add something, but I think we've seen a lot of the times that Nathan Sobey's disappeared a little bit when Walton Jr.'s been in the lineup. There was a few games there, so like, as much as it's a positive, they've been playing a long time without Walton Jr., and I think that can disrupt things a little bit more than maybe the positive, especially in such a sort of short turnover with this series obviously being played in just a few days between game 1 and game 2. So I think Illawarra 2-0, and they go in as then heavy favourites in the championship series.
Very exciting. I'm on the 2-1 bandwagon as well. I think the Illawarra
such
defense...
fence sitters. You're sitting on the fence with a 2-1.
I just think South East Melbourne are too good, offensively to not win a game. All right, boys, let's have a quick break, come back and discuss if this will be the last time we see the Goulding versus Cotton matchup. Okay, let's get the right graphic on the screen. Now, boys, Chris Goulding and Bryce Cotton, 2 mainstays, 2 big names in the league and in the NBL. Could this be the last time we see these 2 guys match up against each other? Josh, what are your immediate thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I sort of intended this topic. Maybe is this the last time we see both of these guys like in the NBL in general? You know, Chris has had the last couple of years where he has been quite injury prone and has missed games and runs of basketball. And when he has been on the court, though, he has been sensational. You know, he's had MVP form last year. You could probably argue that his form early on in the season was up there as well as in MVP contentions as well before all these other guys just started turning it on. You like the likes of Kendrick Davis and Matt Hurt, who obviously started getting their seasons rolling. But this is such an intriguing matchup because these guys have been the leaders and the faces of these teams for nearly a decade now. You know, these guys have been the staples. These guys have been the scorers. They've been the leaders. They've been everything for these particular teams. And I thought, let's go back and have a look at this incredible matchup that Melbourne United and Perth have had for such a long period of time and dive in more to the Bryce Cotton era when obviously he has been here in the league versus Chris Goulding and Melbourne United. So bit surprising, but not at the same time. So Chris Goulding leads this matchup 15 wins to Bryce Cotton and the Perth Wildcats 8. So nearly double the amount of wins. But where it's interesting, and I thought they've matched up a little bit more, and they may have, I think maybe it was the 2016-17 season, which I'll have to go into a little bit more, but within the last 7 seasons, they've only played one final series together, and that was a grand final series in which the Wildcats won that 3-1. So in the finals, Bryce is got the chockies, and in the regular season, Chris Goulding has made the Perth Wildcats his little bitch. So it's going to be interesting because two of these guys are, you know, these two guys are absolute superstars of the NBL. Could be the last series that we ever see Bryce Cotton in the NBL. There is plenty of talk about that. I know he's still continuing to defer that conversation, but I think we still need to have that conversation that this could potentially be the last 3 games in which we see Bryce Cotton in a red and black jersey. And on the flip side of that as well, I don't think it will happen, but there is a slight chance at the age that he is, the injuries that have been happening, everything building up, that maybe he doesn't see himself making it to LA 28, which I know is a goal of his to play in the Olympics for the Australian Boomers. And maybe this year he hangs it up if they don't have a really deep playoff run. Or if they win an NBL championship, maybe he goes out in a high. So a couple little things there just to get everyone at home sort of brains ticking there. But it's going to be an incredible matchup. But I've got some stats about both teams very shortly.
And Jez, the 3-point shooting from these teams is definitely going to be important in which team wins. And these two guys are one of the best 3-point shooters for each team. How do you see that battle kind of playing out? Does Goulding have the edge there against Cotton?
I don't know really if anybody has the edge here between those two. I think it's going to be very much a who's hitting better on the night type of thing because, yeah, like they're not the two best sort of 3-point shooters for their team. They're the two best 3-point shooters in the league for sure. And I think it's just definitely going to be a matter of, who wins or who's shooting better on the night. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see how the teams react in, say, 3 separate situations here. If both of them are hitting and both of them are on fire, where does that game go? What's going to happen when, say, Goulding is hitting and Bryce isn't, how the game's going to shift then, or vice versa, or if both are getting defended so well that both are sort of hitting at very inconsistent percentages. So I think that is definitely where this game lies, is obviously who's hitting on the night and then how your team reacts to those different situations of who's shooting better from 3 and who's playing that outside ball much better.
Josh, what are your thoughts on this 3-point battle? Do you, Goulding throws up. I don't know. I was just trying to grab the stats here while you guys are talking, but is it around 20 shots a game, 20 from the perimeter? He throws up quite a lot. Is his penchant for throwing up the ball from deep gonna put him ahead of Bryce in this category in this matchup?
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily think it's just going to be, obviously, Chris's impact. Like, I've got the team stats here. So when we look at the Wildcats compared to Melbourne United from a team perspective, the Wildcats sit atop of the whole NBL with 3-pointers made this season. They average 11.5 makes per game. And United is second, though, with 11.4. So basically, there is not much between both of these teams in terms of how they make their shots from the 3-point line. But the blaring difference is the opposition side, the defensive side. So Melbourne United are currently second in the NBL and are only allowing 8.9 three-point shots made per game. Whereas the Wildcats are only allowing a little bit more. It's 10.1 three-point shots per game. But that is where the difference could be. You know, those one or two extra three-pointers in this particular game, in a playoff environment, it gets the crowd going wherever you are. You know, that could be the key little difference there as well. So it's such a tough one because, you know, when you're looking at a few different metrics and a few different stats here, you just can't split these two teams. You know, like I know there's the blaring difference is the defensive end, but everything else is relatively similar. You know, you could even go into points in the paint. Like I think the Perth Wildcats, they're not statistically a better point in the paints team by a glaring, you know, stretch of the imagination, but they've got the players who I think can dominate Melbourne in that sense. You know, you put Pinder in the form he's been in the last month. You've got Doolittle flying now since that injury. Windler, you know, you've got Aquera, Almansa. That's 5 guys who can attack the paint with size and strength and do it at a good level. And you've really only got Jack White and Marcus Lee and maybe Rob Lowe to throw in there as defensive anchors. So Melbourne could inside. I still think that, you know, there's going to be a massive focus on Bryce Cotton. Shea Ili and Matthew Dellavedova are going to be crucial for this matchup because I don't necessarily think the Wildcats can shut down Chris Goulding. I think the only way you stop him is him just missing shots, whereas you have seen over the past couple of years Melbourne United have shut down Bryce Cotton. Shea Ili is the defensive player of the year and has been for some years now for a reason. He strangles the best players in the competition. So this matchup is super exciting. As a Perth Wildcats fan myself, I am sort of shit myself. You know, this is a series that I didn't really want it to go. I would have, and I said this on Beyond the Buzzer a couple of weeks ago, I would have preferred to go the Illawarra Hawks route, purely because they're more of an offensive team and they'll make it into a shootout in which I think we can win. Whereas Melbourne, it's sort of nearly going to be, I think, first to 95. So I can't wait, but it's going to be an interesting game for sure.
I was going to touch on that with you in a sec here. Just quickly, the numbers that I was alluding to there in the beginning. Chris Goulding on the season, 10.3 three-point attempts per game, has gone up to 10.9 in the last 5 rounds of the season. But the big one is Bryce Cotton going from 8.8 shots from deep on the season to 11.2 in the last 5 rounds of the season. So a marked increase from Cotton there. Now, Jez, Josh spoke about the defensive efforts from these teams here, and I'm also in the kind of the sense that if Melbourne are going to win this matchup, it's going to be their defensive pressure and the coaching from these two guys. You know that Dean Vickerman has, it seems through this season, had an easier time adjusting on the run to stuff that's happening within the game compared to John Reilly. How do you see kind of that matchup of the coaching styles and the adjustments throughout the game affecting the outcome of the series?
Yeah, I really think that that's probably the biggest strength of Melbourne United in this matchup. I think we've seen a lot of the times, like Vickerman's just known to be calm, collected. He brings such poise and gives the confidence to his players and makes those adjustments, which we have seen a lot from them. They've been trailing and been able to pick up games where you sort of see really is definitely not that style, like that style of coach at all. He's very animated. He's very out there. He's like all walking back and forth up on the bench. For me, personally, it brings tension to me watching those small little snippets of John really going up and down and bouncing around on the sideline. And yeah, I think the adjustment is really tough. And I think yeah, for Melbourne, we discussed their sort of their age and experience, but when it comes to the playoffs, that's going to definitely be their biggest strength. And it goes in with their coaching as well, because they know in these tight matches that they're going to be able to adjust and find a way to win, and especially if it's close. I think one of the biggest stats in this one for me is that matches decided by 5 points or less, Melbourne are 100% win percentage there, while Perth are 50%. And that comes down to the experience of their players and the experience of their coach and being able to call the right plays and handle the pressure. And I think that's a massive, massive plus for Melbourne United in this, and that's where they can potentially steal this series.
Yeah, well, I think like with obviously Dean and John, there is the sense of the fact that they are just very frantic sort of coaches. Like as much as John walks up and down the court and is freaked out, Dean does the exact same. Like Dean, they have to literally turn the umpires' mics down because otherwise all you would hear is Dean's voice through the commentary. It's just ridiculous. So they're both similar in that sense. I think the key, they're obviously both great coaches, and it's the reason why their teams have finished second and third on the ladder. I think the key difference is the assistant coach sort of pull behind them. Now, no disrespect to Perth Wildcats sort of assistants with Jared and Aaron and obviously Keegan, but Jacob Chance is, I think, the best assistant coach in the game. We've seen what he's done for the Perth Wildcats for plenty of years now. We've seen what he did in Tasmania with Scott Roth as essentially the 2IC, and now we're seeing what he can do in Melbourne United. So I think having that sort of guy behind Dean Vickerman, who sometimes, like I said, gets a bit frantic, gets a bit ahead of himself, it's really great to have that sort of cool and calming presence behind you to sort of, see the game a little bit differently sometimes. So there is some clear differences between both of these coaches, as we've spoken about. One focuses more defensively and the other focus more offensively. But I just think that the one thing that everyone's forgetting about is this is the best Bryce Cotton we've ever seen. And he had a slight little lean patch where he was only averaging, those 25 points for 3 games there. But he's back up to that 35 to 45 points per game. So he is on a generational tear. Sometimes you just can't stop those players. So good luck, Dean Vickerman and Melbourne United. But like I said earlier, this is going to be an intense series.
All right, boys. Predictions. Jez, I'll ask you first.
Yeah, I'm staying off the fence. I'm going Perth 2-0 in this one too. Yeah, I know. But I just see them being too powerful offensively. I see that if they stop Bryce Cotton, I think the difference with the Wildcats now is that they have the ability now to find other scorers. Pinder's been hot. I think Doolittle's been hot. You've got Henschel, even Elijah Pepper coming in with some confidence after a good performance for the Boomers. They've got alternate scorers, which is something that they haven't really had the last few years, and it's why they've bowed out. You shut down Cotton, you shut down the Wildcats. This year, I don't think they're not that same team. They've got alternate scorers. I think Perth are going to be able to outscore Melbourne. I don't think Melbourne have enough on the offensive end to be able to keep up with Perth, and that's how they're going to win this game. Turn it into a shootout, make Melbourne go with you, and then wait for them to miss.
Josh?
I'm going to go 2-1. I'm going to sit on the fence again, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a bold prediction, though. I think to Perth, sorry. I think every game will be won by the away team. There's my prediction for this series. So I think Perth will win 2 in Melbourne, and I think Melbourne will win the 1 at RAC Arena. So the reason I say that is the fact that Melbourne have had 21 days since their past game. So we can talk about age, we can talk about experience, but we can also talk about that in the same breath with having 21 days off since your last game. There's a difference between, as we all know, training games and real games. Those things mean something. There's 15,000 people in the crowd compared to the 20 media members who watch your training sessions. So I think the Perth Wildcats will win game 1. There's a chance they can obviously go 2-0 going back to RAC Arena, but I see Melbourne United potentially winning that game. Game 3 back at John Cain Arena, the Wildcats win away at 2-1, taking on the Illawarra Hawks. But what a final series. I think this is going to be a better series than what the other series is. I think this is just going to be 2 teams that genuinely hate each other, whereas the other 2 teams are sort of just building their reputations in the NBL.
Josh, I'm interested to kind of pick that out a little bit there. What's the difference? I mean, match fitness wise, both teams haven't played for a large stretch of time. So match fitness has gone within a kind of a week to 2 weeks. So both teams are done there. How is the difference? I don't understand.
21 days off for 35-year-old bodies is a lot more time off than 25 to 27-year-olds. That's what we forget about better? Sometimes with professional. I don't think so. No, because you come out sluggish. We see it all the time. I look at the AFL for an example, right? How many teams have struggled on the 21-day break between their first qualifying final and the prelim final? teams come out sluggish. They come out slow. Now, is it necessarily going to cost them the game? No, because we've seen that teams can score against the Wildcats in quick succession and get back into games. But I think they're going to come out very sluggish and slow. Now, we could see the complete opposite. That's the thing. There is only two outcomes here. There's not going to be a slow, gradual build. It's either they're going to come out very poor after the long break or they're going to come out very fast from the long break. But I see them with the older bodies and everything like that coming out slow. So that's the way I see it. Like 21 days, like it's a long time. The Wildcats they played 7 days after, obviously, the last time Melbourne United played on the court as well. So, they're only sitting at the 14 days. I know it's a long time, but still, I'm not sure it's a different thing.
Okay, well, let's have a quick break, come back and talk some free agency, boys. Exciting. Okay, NBL free agency is right around the corner, and we woke up. Did we wake up to the news? I don't know. Maybe we didn't wake up to the news, but Taron Armstrong today signed a 10-day contract with the Golden State Warriors. Fantastic for him to get that opportunity over in the US and the NBA. Obviously, his time in the NBL this season, despite missing a lot of games, has still done enough to pique the interest of the scouts over there, and in a fantastic team. He'll obviously learn a lot in his time there and hopefully pick up a more long-term contract. Now, boys, once again, we have to spruik the NBL free agency tracker on the Basketball Fix website. There is rumours, there's contracts, there's off contracts, there's so much to get into there. So get over and check out the basketballfix.com free agency tracker. And I want to start off, Josh, by going to you, and I want to hear, who is the top talent in this NBL free agency period that we think will stay in the NBL? Who is that person?
I think will stay in the NBL. Oh, you stumped me here.
Well, who are other NBL teams looking to recruit to them that, okay, well, it's not someone that's going to be going to the NBA or to Japan or whatever. Who do we think is going to stay in the NBL and move the needle for another team in this NBL 26 season?
Yeah, well, we spoke of Taron Armstrong just there off the top, and I think that has been, obviously, it's been rumoured for the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers to be going very hard after Taron Armstrong. Now, if that does come off, and let's just speak hypothetically right now, and this is what rumours are, they are rumours, and we can speculate on those rumours. People get them mixed up sometimes that when we say a rumoured player or there's a rumoured situation, like that player signed there for the next 5 years. No, a rumour is a rumour, and that's what it is. But there's a big rumour coming out that if Taron Armstrong is to sign the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers, Milton Doyle could be on his way to Melbourne United. Now, for me, that gets me excited because Milton has got some family ties to Melbourne. Some of his family has moved to Melbourne and they're loving their time there, and there has that little connection there with Melbourne. But could you imagine Milton playing alongside a defensive point guard and a playmaking point guard? Is it giving Josh Majette flashbacks? Oh, it is for me. Josh Majette, really good defensive guard for the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers, a good scorer, a good playmaker, everything like that. And Shea Illy is a very similar player in terms of skill set. We've seen Shea float around with triple-doubles so many times in his career so far, the 13-7-7, the 13-9-9, everything like that. He's such a consistent player. So bringing a guy with the caliber and the experience of Milton Doyle, has that championship pedigree, who's a little bit older as well, in which Melbourne love. I know they love that word older and age, and we'll keep continuing to use that as well. But that is the guy who I think would be a really, really good target for Melbourne United. And just to piggyback off that as well quickly, Alan Williams is another name who has said that he is open to an NBL return. Right, the big man from the Southeast Phoenix, an absolute superstar of the NBL. Now, there has been rumours that obviously he was living in Melbourne when he was having the birth of his child. I think he was playing in the Korean Basketball League. He has since gone back over there since the birth of their first child, but has frequently said that he loves Melbourne. Now, that obviously leaves Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, which I think you can put a big fat line through because they didn't want to sign him when all the people who are still there right now in the front office said that his knees weren't no good. So I think it rules them out. But Melbourne United may be the sneaky chance of obviously pulling off the double move with Milton Doyle and Alan Williams. And from a team who has maybe been a little bit scarce with imports over the last couple of years. They may go out there and get two of the best imports that we've seen over the past couple of seasons. So I'm excited by Melbourne's off-season and those two guys in particular as well.
Jez, similar question to you, mate. Who do we see could make a big move, a top level talent make a big move within the NBL and move the needle for the team?
Well, I don't know. If we want to roll off this hypothetical of what's going to happen in Melbourne United, I think you bring Milton Doyle there. What happens to Matthew Dellavedova? Because obviously there's Rumours there as well. As we said, Rumours, he wants a long-term contract that's going to take him all the way to the 2028 Olympics so he can keep playing. But Melbourne are a little bit, they're standing off on that. They're not really super keen to sign Dellavedova on a long-term deal and pay the money that he wants as the experienced NBA player that he is. So if Milton Doyle comes and Alan William comes, then maybe Dellavedova's time at Melbourne United is over. And then I guess the most likely team that showed interest in him is the Brisbane Bullets. So he could move up there and really sort of bring an experience to a team that I think definitely needs it. They need someone that can steer the ship, someone that can play well defensively and also be a deliverer and just be the playmaker for that team. Doesn't need to be in the limelight and a scorer, which they obviously have in Casey Prather and Keandre Cook and even Bateman, if all of those three guys do stick around. So I think it could be a really, really interesting move if Delhi does come up there. So we'll see. That's all, like we said, this crazy hypothetical building around Melbourne United, who have been probably one of the most solid teams and keeping their group together over the last few years.
Yeah, it's interesting, mate. And the Delhi one has caught my attention. And there was a rumor going around a couple of months ago that, not a couple of months ago, a couple of weeks ago, that Keandre Cook would re-sign with the Brisbane Bullets if they got a true point guard. Now, Matthew Dellavedova screams that, getting a true point guard essentially was what Keandre Cook wanted, because then he can play more shooting guard, in which he didn't really want to be the sole sort of playmaker for the Brisbane Bullets. So one other thing with the Brisbane Bullets as well, James Bateman supposedly signed a 2-year deal. This is probably one of the weirder sort of things going around in the NBL right now. He signed a 2-year deal, and it was no 1 year plus an option. It was a 2-year deal, but there's reports that maybe there is some sort of an out. Now, the out might be coaching change. That could be the thing, in which we do see in some of these contracts from time to time. There is a coaching change clause, essentially where the player can reassess if he wants to go back to that team. They may have signed at that particular team for that reason. But yeah, there's not much information around if James Bateman will be back for next season. So again, rumours, nothing's been confirmed yet. But yeah, Matthew Dellavedova to the Brisbane Bullets probably brings Keandre Cook back. That will probably bring James Bateman back, because those two are very close, and they've got Casey Prather locked away. What an exciting team that will be for next year.
Do they have the money to do that?
Yeah. Like, you got to remember, like, they were paying. Baines was chewing up a lot of the salary cap. So, like, the thing as well with a Matthew Dellavedova, you can back end deals, you can front end deals, you can do whatever you need to do to spread that money out evenly for that particular salary cap. So when you look at, from 1 to 6 to from 7 to 10, it drops off quite a lot. So you're not having to pay these Isaac White's probably $400,000 a year. You may be getting 250, for example. So those little 150s or 200Ks here and there will help out with all these star imports. So most teams have got enough money to be able to spend, enough money on 3 imports and a star player that's an Australian. So it's going to be interesting. But I think they've definitely got the money. They're not afraid to spend the money as well, is the big question as well.
Boys, what do we think about Sam Froling? Is he on the way out of Illawarra, or does it depend on their championship run? I personally don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so either. You stalk him a little bit on his Instagram and it almost tells you straight up he's not moving from the Gong. He loves to be down there. Obviously, big paddleboarder, big surfer, no better place to live in Sydney than the Shire if you're into all of that sort of stuff. But on the basketball sense, I think they're building something in Illawarra. I think if they fail to make the championship series this year or fail to win, they're going to go even harder at it next year. I think I would be very surprised if any of these big sort of key puzzle pieces in Illawarra go anywhere, because they want to go on a little bit of a run, and maybe they want to go on a little bit of a dynasty. And if they can keep players there, then we could see them win a few championships, or at least make it to a few championship series over the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, I think the thing there with that conversation with Froling is hypothetically and just imagining this sort of comment. Maybe Justin Tatum shoots over to the NBA, and we know Froling's got that really good connection with Brian Goorjian. And I think that's where these rumours really stem from, is that couple of years which Brian Goorjian and Sam Froling had. And sometimes it is nice, obviously, to get your nose under an ex-Australian boomer coach as well, where you get a bit more of the spotlight and that communication back, because that's obviously one of Sam's goals as well, long term.
But what do you think? What happens first? Goorjian retires and loses his marbles, or Tatum goes to the NBA? Should we have that conversation?
Well, one's already happened.
I don't see Tatum going to the NBA. He strikes me as the kind of person that wants to see things through. So he started a movement here, and whether or not he attributes that to himself or to everything around him, but it's most definitely had a significant change in the trajectory of this franchise. And I see him as a person that wants to see that through and keep building and leave then the franchise in a spot where they're going to be consistently performing at a top level. But you look at guys, there's Blanchfield, Darius Days, obviously Sam Froling, and even Trey Curl. They're all of their contracts go out at the end of this season. HJ Lee, Mason Peatling, Dan Greeter as well to add to that list. So that they have quite a few players that are contributing to this team right now that they're going to have to re-sign if they want to bring it back. And then you're talking about this salary cap. People are going to want to have more money. So someone's going to get pushed out, whether you like it or not. Josh?
Did you just use the tracker Ryan?
I did. That's pretty good.
Oh, there we go. He's using it to good use. That's what everyone else can do as well. www.thebasketballfix.com. But hey, does he remind you a little bit of Deion Sanders? Like, he's got that sort of, he's got that aura about him. Yeah, like that aura about Justin and Deion Sanders, where it's like, I'm happy just coaching in college, or I'm happy just coaching in the NBL. I don't want to go to the NFL. I don't want an NBA job. Like, there's that aura in which Justin Tatum has that I think really makes him an attractive coach in the NBL. For crying out loud, Drake has been walking around in WA with Justin Tatum's little singlet on. So, like, there's some aura that this dude has that no one else in the NBL has. That's a little throwback out there as well.
Boys, let's round off this segment with some. I just want to get your dream move. So, if a team could sign anybody and make it a little bit realistic, but still dream big, who could that person be to bring to the NBL, and maybe which team? Josh, I'll go to you first, mate.
Yeah, so LeBron James Sr. to the Perth Wildcats would be, I'm joking around, but the player that I'd love to see, or maybe the players, and it's a hypothetical, but I don't think at the same time that it is. And I could go on about Montrezl Harrell coming to the Perth Wildcats, but I'm going to go down this path, and it's Sam Wardenberg and Tanner Groves re-signing with the Cairns Taipans. Now, this is my dream move for this franchise for no other reason than they need stability and they need some top-end talent at their club. And I think Sam Wardenberg is pure class. We've seen Taron Armstrong go to the NBA. I think Sam Wardenberg, if he applied himself, could make it to the league in some stretch of the imagination. If guys like Xavier Cooks can make it over there who can't even shoot a free throw, then I think a guy like Sam Wardenberg can 100% have a crack at the NBA level. Now, Tanner Groves as well, if you go check out www.thebasketballfix.com free agency tracker, he is also rumoured to be looking to sign a long-term deal with the Cairns Taipans as well, returning for NBL 26 and potentially NBL 27 as well. So from a Cairns perspective, they haven't got a lot of money and they've really got to target some good quality guys. And Tanner Groves seems to be that guy. So if I'm a Cairns Taipan supporter, I am ecstatic with the realization that potentially you could bring back Sam Wardenberg, who won 3 awards at your awards night, and Tanner Groves could potentially come back as well, which would be a crucial signing for everything that they need to build up there in Cairns.
Yeah, I got one there as well for Cairns, and it may have to do with whether Taron Armstrong is still around or not, and obviously the money thing is a big question. But John Wall, now he played for the Clippers. He played obviously massive for Houston. He's been around the NBA, hasn't got a contract, hasn't played for a while, but still has the draw card in terms of people wanting to watch him. And if they could possibly frame this as a kind of a redemption you counted me out. He would never get back to the NBA, but to just prove that he can still play basketball and contribute to a team. And this could really push Cairns into the eyes of a lot more people around the world, which could boost their profile and obviously give them a bit of a better chance to compete at this level. Josh, I see you fighting to get in.
I don't think he'll ever play for any other team than Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. So, because he owns a portion of Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, so I can't see him playing for another team. Yeah, so that's the thing. John Wall has been rumoured to potentially play in the NBL, but he owns a portion of Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. He's always frequently training over here in Melbourne in the off-season, everything like that. So the John Wall conversation is one that is 100% ready to go, and I think it's an amazing signing, but I don't think he'd go to somewhere else, obviously boosting their money when he could make a shit ton more money for himself and obviously on and off the court. So, great one there, though. The player's name is bang on, just probably the wrong team.
Jez, do you got anyone? Do you have anyone?
I'm gonna hang on to the Southeast Melbourne train, and I think probably the most important signing will be if they can re-sign Matt Hurt, because I think he obviously has shown this year that he's a perfect fit for the NBL game. If he doesn't end up on a two-way contract in the NBA, I think Southeast Melbourne really need to make it a priority to sign him. They can build a team around him. He obviously has a great connection with Josh King, and they can definitely build toward the future. We've seen what they've been able to do together, and I think it'd be super important for them to get that done as soon as possible.
I got one more, boys, just as a dream move, I think, for the NBL as well. Lance, make him dance, my baby. Like, this would be the signing. Lance Stephenson would be the name that everyone would love to see. Like, could you imagine how easy it would be to make memes of Lance Stephenson? Basically, every time he gets on the court, there's a meme. Tragic Johnson is what he got called back in the day when he was playing for the Lakers. It's just, he's just a walking meme, and he would bring so many eyes to the NBL. He's obviously had that conversation with Pete Hawley where he was over here supporting Montrezl Harrell at the back end of the season, and he was like, man, this atmosphere out here is awesome. I'm still only 34 years of age. I'd love to be still playing basketball. Lance, make him dance. Come to the Perth Wildcats, mate. I'd love to see it. Blowing in John Riley's ears, I reckon, would be an outstanding meme, I think, going forward.
Maybe we'll have to help finance that move to push our social media profile on the Meme King. All right, boys, that's it. Another big episode under the belt. As always, don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, rate, all of that jazz, and check out the Basketball Fix podcast on Instagram, all the socials, and we can't say it enough, the basketballfix.com free agency tracker is live, and it is fantastic. I used it during this show, and I loved it.
Me too.
It was great. What a day, boys. Semi-finals just around the corner. It's exciting.
2-0. Telling you.
I'm excited. Let's make him dance, baby. Let's get these playoffs rolling. I'm bloody excited. We've had a long week off. That FIBA break, that's a whole other episode we need to get into because this is stagnated. But wow, Friday night it all kicks off, or Thursday night, then Friday night. So I'm ending the show. Let's go.
All right, boys. Thank you very much for today. Listeners, viewers, and the like, we hope you've gotten your basketball fix.
Which stars come to play? He's the biggest of them all. Step back, 4-3. Phoenix forced a turnover at halfway. Yes, sir. Clock at 10. Adams the off balance.